So Yud Tes Kislev is the Yom HaHilula of the Mizritcha Magid, as well as the Chag HaGeula, the liberation of the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi. He was imprisoned in the fortress of Petersburg in Russia. And on Yud Tes Kislev, as he was saying, Pada v'shalom nafshi, the Yom Tehillim of that day, before he finished the sentence, he was freed from jail. Many years later, the Rebbe Rashab wrote in a letter that this day of Yud Tes Kislev is Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus, and therefore, L'shana Tova, Belimud HaChassidus Ubedarkei HaChassidus. We gather to recommit ourselves to learning and studying Chassidus and applying it to our day-to-day life. So I want to share with you a brief story. This happened about 25 years ago. I was traveling from New York to California, where I was a Bacher Shliach in Oral Chanan Chabad Yeshiva. And I heard that a new volume of Lekutei Torah with the translation of Chassidus Muvaeres was just printed, and I wanted to learn a mimer together with this beautiful translation. So I went to the closest Sfarim store to Brighton Beach, on Avenue J and Coney Island, to Eichler's, and I'm sure many here are familiar with the beautiful Yid in back of the Eichler store who runs the Sfarim department. And I went to him to get a Chassidus Muvaeres. I come to him and I asked him, do you have the new volume of Lekutei Torah with the translation of Chassidus Muvaeres? And he said, actually, it was just sold out. I said, here in Flatbush, Chassidus Muvaeres is sold out. Not in Borough Park, not in Crown Heights, not in Williamsburg, but here in Flatbush, it's sold out. Wow. And I was thinking how powerful, how we see a Futzu Mainasecha Chutza, the teachings of the Alter Rebbe, the day today of his liberation, how 25 years ago it was spreading everywhere. People were learning the hard Maimarim of Lekutei Torah, even in Flatbush. So here we are 25 years later, and in every shul in the world, you will find a Tanya shir. Here in BRS, there's a Tanya shir, and in many shuls, in Borough Park, in Crown Heights, in Haredi communities, in Dati Leumi communities, in Sephardic communities, they're learning Tanya. So what is it about Chabad Chassidus that spread around the world and people are thirsty to learn more? So to understand this, we must go back to the beginning. When the Alter Rebbe was in prison, he wrote a letter as to the happenings of how he was imprisoned. And he wrote to his Chassidim an intimate letter, and he said that he was imprisoned for many reasons, and one of those reasons was because of the opposition to the teachings of Chabad Chassidus. But he told his Chassidim, I want you to know and I want you to remember that this opposition down here is not just down here, this is really something that's going on Lamaila, and that's why there's something going on Lamata. There was a kitrug, there was a challenge up there in heaven if the Alter Rebbe should continue teaching Chabad Chassidus. And one side said that he should stop teaching, and the other side said that he should continue teaching. And there was a debate, and the verdict was on Yud Tes Kislev in 1798, when Lamaila it was decided that the Alter Rebbe should continue spreading with much more koyach and much more force, spreading the well springs of Chassidus Yafutzu Mainasecha Chutza. But one can ask, what is unique about the Alter Rebbe? Why is it that the Alter Rebbe was able to bring such wisdom, such pnimius hatayra to the world? And to that, there's a famous conversation a few years before Yud Tes Kislev between Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Mibarditchev and the Alter Rebbe. Rebbe Levi Yitzchak was asking the Alter Rebbe, why are you not using supernatural means to get the world to buy into Gilui Elikus, the godly revelation? Why don't you just break the mata? The world will buy in by them being mevatel, nullifying their existence to God. The Alter Rebbe said, that's not my way. with Chabad, with Chacham Bina Das, with wisdom, and internalizing that wisdom into your emotions and into your behaviors, into your nature, bringing heaven down to earth. That's the point of Chabad Chassidus. And the Alter Rebbe turned to Rebbe Levi Yitzchak and said, my mission and goal is so that God's mission and goal be fulfilled in this world with making a home for God in this world. But one can still ask, and I'll end with this, what is Chabad Chassidus to a Jew, to a person living now, 2025, post-October 7th? How is Chabad Chassidus relevant to this person today? And to that, I'll share with you some of my work, my personal work as a psychotherapist here in Boca, where I see all sorts of people, individuals, families, couples, teenagers, and I see the Chiddush of Chabad Chassidus every single day in my work. You see, we're living in a very challenging time. We have unbelievable blessings, but we also have unbelievable challenges. Behind the beautiful homes and the shuls and the Jewish communities that are growing rapidly and beautifully, there are a lot of people that are struggling. Children that are disconnected, teenagers that suffer from intense anxiety, adults with quiet depression, couples with shalom bayis, families dealing with addiction, and mainly people asking, what does it mean to be frum today? And in order to understand that, we must look inside the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe wrote the Tanya not as an information sefer, but as a manual, as a guide to implement into our lives for this generation. So for the person that is struggling with anxiety, the Alter Rebbe spent 20 years writing the Tanya. So we have all clinical ways of how to help people with different modalities like IFS, CBT, DBT. But with that, we also have our Torah, Teras Chaim, Chabad Chassidus, and the Tanya. For a person who's struggling with anxiety, the Alter Rebbe wrote for him Perek Chafei. For a person who is dealing with depression, quiet depression, major depression, the Alter Rebbe wrote Perek Chavav. For a person that is asking, who am I? What is my identity? The Alter Rebbe wrote Perek Beis of Tanya. And what is unique about Perek Beis of Tanya? That the Alter Rebbe wrote in that Perek, V'nefesh hashenis b'Yisrael hi chelek elika. Many Jewish leaders spoke about the chelek elika, the part of God that's inside of a Jew, that's inside of a person. But the Alter Rebbe wanted to emphasize that it's not just the chelek elika symbolically or culturally, but it's literally a piece of God inside of you. How does that change someone's identity with that feeling that he knows who he is? And then for a person who asks, where is God? To that we have Shar Yechid Ve'emunah, where the Alter Rebbe talks about the closeness of Borei and Nivra, the closeness of creator to creation. And therefore a Jew is never alone. And finally, many today ask, I'm going from work, home, and then from home to the shul. What am I doing? What is my purpose? What is my mission? And to that, the Alter Rebbe wrote Perek Lamed Vav. In Perek Lamed Vav, the Alter Rebbe gives us the mission of our generation. V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'seicham b'seich kol echad ve'echad, to make a dira la yisparech b'tachtenim, to make a home for God in your corner. And you are balabas, you are the owner of your corner. Only you can bring God into that place. So on Yud Tes Kislev, we recommit ourselves to the vision and mission of the Alter Rebbe to make a home for God in this world. And I'm sure that through this we'll be zeicha to the Geula ha'amitis v'hashlema now. L'chaim.